Peep and Peep too. It's a fun username to say. First time watcher here. Well, welcome. How much real time would you spend describing a scene to your players? Is there anything that should be a priority to explain if you don't have a lot of time as a DM? I think I would spend time on sort of the basic senses, right? What does the space feel like? What does it look like? Sure. But also, more importantly, I think, is what are the characters' sense around them? What kind of anything that sort of anchors them to this place, right? Do they feel the sun on them in a forest clearing? Do they hear the dripping water in the sewers that they're exploring? And I would really try to make that punchy and efficient, because once players get a picture in their mind, anytime you spend belaboring it is going to quickly become boring. So try to think of a punchy way to describe it, and then don't be afraid to sort of list. Think about it like a point and click adventure. What are the sort of hot spot clickable areas in the room, in the space? And that space could be the room in the dungeon. It could be a map of the forest. It could be the entire starting town. So if I was to take the sewer example, right? Um, the water has sort of a splash up into their boots as they've walked into this room. They can hear sort of the echo of their voices off in the darkness, and everything just feels wet and almost humid, like in a hot way. That gives, okay, so we're in the sewer. And then I might say, looking around where you are, there's a pathway to the north. There's also a gate that's broken that seems to slope down and looks like there are bones down that direction. And you also see a pile of rats sort of covering what you hope isn't a body on the other end of the corridor, right? Like, just giving a couple of places where it's like, okay, do we go that direction? Should we investigate down in the hole? That sounds terrible. The rats, maybe we don't even care. Like, that's usually enough, because then you're going to start getting people saying, well, I want to do this check, or I want to look into this, or I want to whatever. Get in, make it count, and then sort of lean back and let the players kind of explore, right? Yeah, I mean the making it's important to make sure that, or you want to, ideally there are plenty of things that are worth the party's time in the space, but not everything has to be worth the party's time. The tricky thing is that as soon as we describe something, we are sort of giving it weight, and we can either, like, we can both we can screw that up. We can also take advantage of that, right? We should be wary of it, and we should also use it to our advantage. So in the case of describing a study, right? If there's a table and a game of chess on it, and I've scribbled that down as like describing the room. I did this actually recently. It was present in a room, and I didn't have some vast thing. So early on, you're going to probably want to take notes that sort of establish meaning ahead of time, right? Only list the corners of the room and the areas and the things that are actually interesting to engage with. But the creative muscle that you want to develop is one where the description you're giving of the room is also a space that you can improvise in. So to take the chess example, this was a clockwork lab that the players were exploring room by room. It was this big, crazy sort of dungeon that rotated around itself, and they came to the inventor's study, and there were a bunch of things in there, and one of them was a chessboard on a table, and it looks like it had been used, like the chess pieces were all in different places. I didn't have any earlier concept of what that meant, but when one of the players said, I want to go look at the pieces, and I said, okay, well, and now what I'm thinking is, okay, what would make it interesting? what would be like, oh, how can I use this prop that my players have just decided they're looking at it, so now it has importance. How is it important, or how could it be important? And I described, how it was sort of a dwarven stone technique, like the masonry to make the items looked like they'd been hand carved out of stone. And there was a piece of parchment next to the thing that identified the person who they knew was the inventor, and some kind of like strange, like clockwork sounding name, like letters and numbers with like 100 marked wins to 0 wins on the other side. Again, I didn't think of that ahead of time. I just thought like, ooh, this would be interesting. And to some extent, the character of that like really kind of wizened automaton, wizened clockwork creation came from that chessboard being there and the players investigating it. And Bruce is here. What are you doing, bud? Oh, that's interesting. Peep and Peep, 2.5 hours for each of your games. That's not. I mean, I think most of my sessions are sort of on the shorter side too. Oh yeah, Bruce is constantly exploding with cat hair. It's everywhere. Everywhere. So I originally wrote this. To be read, but I think I'm going to rewrite it. Yeah, see a construct. Even though it is harder to do, I'm not sure that I want to propagate this idea that things should be read at the table to groups. I don't think that that's a good thing. I think it's a bad habit. It's easy, but it's a bad habit. Hey, Joseph, welcome to the stream. What software do I use to track my notes? So my editor of choice for text is this app. It's called Ulysses. But I like it specifically because it is. I like the general formatting, but mostly it lets me write in Markdown. So that's why it has like all the symbols, like creating headings and lists and bolding things, and doing so without like formatting things. I find that formatting really gets in the way of my writing. So I use this, but in terms of like my methodology for tracking notes, I'll write things in here and then I'll print them like 4 up. I'll print 4 sheets onto a single sheet of paper, and then that's what I'll use to run from. And then I just sort of like take notes in written form on top of those pages. And then at the end of a session, I just throw that whole printed page into a notebook I have, like a spiral folder. And that's what I use. So I've got the physical copy from the game. Sorry for all the cat hair. But I also have the digital stuff to search through in case I need to. And usually the combination of both for me, having physical and digital, just is the right combination. As a player, I prefer physical. I started using a 5-ring journal so I could add or reorganize things as needed. Nice. That's smart.